Hello fellow jewelry lovers. This week's episode features jewelry by DeLizza and Elster, also known as DNE and also known as Juliana. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful, I'm excited, let's get started. Here's a really beautiful set by DNE, a brooch and matching earrings in shades of blue with beautiful Rivets, chatons, and AB rhinestones. You can find this in the Is It Juliana database under numbers 6308 and 6309. While it is in the database, let me show you some other ways that you can tell that this is a Juliana or DNE piece. A lot of your clues are going to be on the back, so let me flip this over and I'm going to zoom in a little closer so that I can show you in detail. Here you can see that they used individual components for their pin back. So it's soldered on here, and then you have the pin itself. So it's a three-piece pin back, rather than with a lot of jewelry you will see a bar and the front and back ends of the pin back are all one unit. And you will not see that on DNE jewelry except for some of the very tiny figurals. I believe that those do sometimes have the one-piece pin back. The other thing that you'll notice is right here there's a small rectangular piece that's called a pin stop, and while having one does not mean that it is DNE, if it doesn't have that pin stop, then it is not DNE. So rather than definitively telling you that it is, it at least tells you that it is not if that pin stop is missing. The other thing I'd like to point out is right here. That used to be known, or I guess is still known, as the figure 8 puddling. But what that actually is they had components made up ahead of time. They had chatons soldered together in 2 and 3 chaton configurations to make it faster for the ladies who were soldering these pieces together. And you will only see that on the DNE. So there's 3 there, 3 there, 3 there, and as I understand it, they had them in straight and curved configurations. Another thing I'd like to bring to your attention is their use of rivets. DNE did use rivets for specific reasons. There's one in there to create items that had different layers, like these florets right here on the front. So there's a rhinestone above and then smaller rhinestones underneath. But you'll never see a DNE brooch that's completely riveted. The use of the rivets was pretty sparing. But as you can see, it's beautiful construction and as beautiful, really tidy on the back as it is on the front. Another thing they did was they did use cast channels, and I'm pointing to one right there. There's actually 2 on this piece, and the channels were precast, and then they had small rhinestones in them. In these cases, the rhinestones are actually glued in. All the rest of the stones on DNE pieces will be prong set, but they are glued into those channels. To make it a little clearer what I was talking about earlier, I want to show you a very beautiful brooch, prong set, and open backs. But if you see this type of a pin back, do you see the difference between what I showed you earlier and this one? This is a one-piece unit. This is not going to be made by DNE. And here's another example, a really beautiful brooch, prong set brooch. And see this pin back? This is also not DNE. Here's another very beautiful set by DNE. It can be found at the isitjulianajewelry.com site under number 1198. It's got these beautiful green stones with flowers that appear to be etched in, although I'm sure they're pressed. Florets, AB rhinestones, and it's just a stunner. Let me show you the back. Okay, there we have the pin stop, the 3-piece pin back and the pin stop. We have rivets, and those rivets are on these florets. See the large rhinestone in the middle and then the smaller rhinestones coming out in spokes underneath. That was pretty common usage for rivets on a DNE piece. And here are your 2-component chatons, there and there, showing the figure 8 puddling look. And now I'd like to show you the difference between DNE riveting and what you might see on some lesser pieces. So here's a lovely brooch in shades of purple. It is prong set, but when you flip it over and look at the back, you can see that the entire piece has been riveted. DNE never used this construction technique. So if you flip it over and see that, it's not DNE. That's not to take away from this brooch. I think it's very beautiful and I'd be happy to wear it. Just know that when you see that on the back, it can't be attributed to DNE. Here's a stunner and a heartbreaker all in one. This beautiful, beautiful DNE brooch and only one earring. Wah wah. All kidding aside, the reason I wanted to show you this is that you should never pass up single earrings. If you're out buying and someone has a brooch and a single earring, make sure to grab that earring. You never know when you might have an accident that would break one of your margaritas, or maybe one of your other stones would fall out. You've got the replacement parts right there in your donor earring, so always grab those if you can. So lots of bling here. Beautiful margarita stones, beautiful chatons and Rivets. Let's look at the back. We've got our DNE pin with the pin stop. We've got 2 channels that have the glued in rhinestones. We've got 2 of the 2 chaton pre-made components. It's really a pretty one with lots of sparkle and shine, and I don't think it's out of line to call it a statement piece. DNE is well known for these 5-link bracelets. This one is beautiful with shades of blue and these really interesting pie-shaped stones. Let me show you that close up. So here are the 5 links. It's with a fold-over clasp. It's a really pretty, very wearable bracelet. Here's a really pretty leaf brooch by DNE. I had a hard time finding this in the database. I found one that seemed identical except it had 2 stems. Couldn't find one with 1 stem. Then finally somebody was kind enough to put me out of my misery and point out that mine actually did have 2 stems originally, and you can see right there where the solder is that one of my stems has been lost. But it's still a very pretty piece. Look at how these blue Rivets and chatons arch up over the green Rivets underneath. I think this dimensionality is a hallmark of a lot of the DNE artistry. Here's another beauty. This one has great big watermelon stones, chatons, Rivets. I love this one. It's a big one. It's really quite a honker. You will not fade into the woodwork if you're wearing this brooch. Let's look at the back. If you'd like to see this in the isitjuliana.com database, it is number 4795. It is really spectacular. Now I'd like to show you another spectacular brooch that I really love a lot that is not DNE, and I want to show you why. If you flip this over and look on the back, you'll see this solid plate. DNE never used this construction technique. So while this is a spectacular brooch, and like I said, I love it a lot, it cannot be attributed to DNE. Just something to know. If you flip it over and see that, it's not DNE. Here's another pretty set by DNE, 5-link bracelet and matching earrings. This one features fairly unusual opaque pink stones along with smoked rhinestones. Let me show you the back. And here's a close-up of the matching earrings. Look how they use that wire to bring the smoked rhinestones up and again give it layers of dimensionality. And here you can see that they use the same length for the earring as they used on the bracelet. Another thing to note with the DNE 5-link bracelets is that the seam of the link is always on the top, never on the back, and then the seam is covered up with stones or settings so that you can't see it. Really quite an unusual and lovely set. Here's a brooch and matching earrings in tones of pink and purple. It has 3D roses applied to the top of the large stones. At least I believe they're applied. I don't think they're pressed that way. Let me show you the back. Here we have our 3-piece pin back with a pin stop, and we have lots of preset chatons in 3 chaton configurations. As I said earlier, that was to save time. See these prongs that are bent slightly towards each other and look like fangs? You'll often see those on the pre-made 2 and 3 chaton components. Here's a beautiful cha-cha bracelet. This can be found in the isitjulianajewelry.com database as number 1478. I love this color combo, this pastel-y look. It's kind of like candy. And talk about movement. When you're wearing this, you're going to get a lot of movement and you're going to send out a lot of sparkles. This is not for a wallflower. If you're shy and retiring and don't want to be noticed, don't wear DNE jewelry because it always garners attention. Here are your 5 links, and I think this bracelet is a step up from the 5-link bracelet I showed you earlier, as it does have the added expense of having a safety chain attached. So pretty, so feminine. I'm bringing back this cha-cha bracelet because there's something important that I forgot to show you. DNE often used square wire when they were attaching articulated items. So in this case, where the beads have to move on the component that's holding them together, that wire is square. So the wire on the bead drops themselves will be round as it normally is, but the wire on the item holding the groups of bead drops together is square. And I'm going to try and zoom in on that. Pardon me for having a hard time manipulating this under the camera. There you go. There's a good shot of the square wire. So as I said, the bead drop wire is round as it normally would be, but this wire here is square. The other thing to note, and I'm sorry that I don't have a good shot of it, is that these items would be riveted on from the back. Hopefully on the next video I will be able to get a good shot of that to show you. But again, there's your round dangles, and then there's your square wire. Hope this is helpful. D&E was the only company to use this square wire. This makes it another trait to look for when you're trying to identify if a piece was made by D&E. Here's a wowza set. It's got this big watermelon stone, and it has these, for lack of a better word, disco ball type components. And here's the back. It has a channel that these smaller green stones are glued into, and it's got a lot of movement. And here's the bracelet with the components repeating, the disco balls, the watermelon stones, the channels with the small stones in them. It really is quite stunning. Let me try and zoom in and show you the back closer up. Let me flip it back over. And this one has a safety chain as well, which is wonderful because you sure wouldn't want to lose this one. I've really only got one word to say about this. Yum! Okay, last but not least is this D&E turtle. Isn't he adorable? He's got a great big watermelon stone on his back, a big pear shape for his head, and all kinds of sparkly chatons. Let me try and zoom in. Let me give you a different view. I'd like to show you the construction on the back. So we have the 3-piece pin back. We have rivets where his feet come out, and they're in different layers. And we also have 2 chaton components, giving us the figure 8 puddling look there and there on the tail. I really like how they use the wire to bring the eyes out. They're above the head the way they've used that wire, and it really gives the turtle more or less a 3D look. There's such fabulous workmanship on these D&E pieces. I think that's a lot of why people like them, not just the fabulous look from the front, but also the workmanship that goes into each and every piece. That is it for today. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like and/or subscribe button, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching.